Well, who had a smackdown of epic proportions on their books? Who predicted this? Wow, that was insane. I thought I was watching the OKC Thunder out there. The Toronto Raptors. We haven't watched the Raptors Summer League. We haven't watched Raptors basketball in months right now. We haven't watched meaningful Raptors basketball in a long time. And yeah, I hear you. It's Summer League. Yeah, I hear you. Collin Murray-Boyles did not play. But here's the thing about Summer League. It sets the tone, right? I don't care about wins and losses. I don't care about makes and misses in Summer League. I seriously don't. I'm not sweating Cooper Flag 5 for 21 last night. And I'm certainly not overreacting to, a hot shooting night by somebody. But the way that the Toronto Raptors attacked this game shows you what's been going on in these practices. Every player who took the court tonight guarded 94 feet. The Chicago Bulls got destroyed. The final score, it's not a glitch, it's not a typo. 116 to 72 with I think 58 fouls called. This was a choppy game. This was a very choppy game. This was a very competitive game. This was an exciting game, depending on whether you like offense or whether you like defense. And as somebody who really likes defense, this was a game that really starts with Jamal Shed, man. We got to talk about this team. We got to talk about this game. Let's take a quick look at the box score. We'll look at some highlights. We'll look at some incredible Alijah Martin plays. We'll look at some very good Ulrich Shamshi stuff. I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot to like here if you're a Toronto Raptor fan. If you're a Chicago Bulls fan, it might feel a little bit different right now. Hang in there, though. Your rookie is 18 years old. This is way too soon to be selling your Noah Senge stock. But if you sell it, I'm buying because Noah is going to be fine. But he did not look fine tonight. He got ripped. He got bodied. He got out physicaled. And he looked every bit as raw as I thought he would look. 2 for 7, 5 points, a team worst, negative 32 in 24 minutes. They tell you not to look at plus minus, but man, that one felt accurate. And Bulls fans are in full panic right now because this definitely did not look good. For the Raptors side, and I just want to shout out, Matas Buzelis, didn't shoot the ball that well, but looked every bit, a lottery pick, 17 points, very athletic, had a huge finish in transition. But other than that, there was not a lot to love. Former Raptor, shout out Javon Freeman Liberty. This is not his first rodeo in the Summer League. Obviously, he's cooked up in the Summer League many times. He played well. But for the Raptors, can we start with a negative? Is there a negative? If there is a negative, I mean, a lot of turnovers, right? A lot of turnovers for the Toronto Raptors. I don't think Colin Castleton looked all that engaged or great, but he had some moments as well, cleaned up the glass a little bit. I'm not necessarily very high on him. And with the Raptors signing David Roddy, a player that Bobby Webster was very high on 2022 to that not two-way deal, Exhibit 10 deal. I think Colin Castleton's days on this roster are probably a little bit numbered here. But the Raptors start in place of Collin Murray-Boyles being out. I'm assuming Colin Castleton starts in his place. The Raptors started Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Jamison Battle, Jonathan Mobo, and Colin Castleton. And they really weren't in trouble at any point in this game. I think they led pretty much wire to wire. After the first quarter, it was not close. Okay. And when that second unit with Ulrich Shamshi and Alijah Martin came in, it really wasn't close. And then you got a huge pouring in the third quarter from AJ Lawson. Take a look at some of the notable box scores. I'll tell you one number that really sticks out to me, plus 36 for Alijah Martin, 16 points. He really turned it up in that fourth quarter. And I got to tell you, it didn't start out well, but it ended very well. AJ Lawson off the bench, 22 points on 7 for 15. Shoot, he could do this in his sleep, right? AJ, this is not his first rodeo in the Summer League either. He's been through it quite a few times. He's a little bit of an older guy. I think he's 25, 26 now. So, he's a professional bucket. And to do that in 20 minutes in limited run, plus playing good defense, I think it was a good game for him. And he's making it very, very hard to cut him at this point. Off the bench, over Chomsky, like, my God, some of the athletic plays, the first thing I noticed when I was watching these players come out, whether we're talking Jacoby, whether we're talking Ulrich, whoever you're talking about on this team, they just looked huge. That's what I would say. They looked huge. Ulrich looks like he's put on a lot of weight. Jameson Battles looks like he's put on a little bit of weight. Everybody looks a lot stockier and a lot stronger. I don't know if it's just my television or what I'm seeing, but everybody just looks bigger. Jacoby's put on, I think, 10, 12-ish pounds. Ulrich looks like he put on like 15 since the last time we saw him. It just looks like a big, bulky, stocky, very physical team, and they play like it. Carter Bryant saying, we are better than OKC. Well, you're certainly not. But I will say this. This team played very much in the style of OKC. And in fairness, they kind of drafted in the style of OKC, so that sort of makes sense, right? Guys like Alijah Martin, guys like Collin Murray-Boyles, guys like Jacoby Walter, Jonathan Mobo, these are all OKC guys. This is what I'm saying. Like, the Raptors draft philosophy shifted from Vision 6'9" to Vision undersized power forward who can guard 4 positions, right? And if their interest in David Roddy is real, that just further cements that OKC style of basketball. The league is moving towards physicality, more physicality, and damn, like this team is built to do some stuff. We'll take a look at some plays, but some notable, let me just give you some insights on what I saw. First of all, Jamal Shed. I mean, what can I say? The box score will not impress you. 9 points, 6 assists. If you were watching this game while you were just kind of browsing your phone and you weren't really paying attention, you really missed the impact of leadership and stability that this guy brought. Now, I understand the Raptors were not very careful with the basketball. They turned it over a ton. There were a couple of really sloppy, stupid, unforced turnovers where, there was this particular play in the first quarter, which was like the corner man lifts to the wing and Colin Castleton doesn't realize it, he just throws it out of bounds. There's a couple of unforced errors like that will happen. These guys aren't necessarily familiar to playing with each other, but the Raptors do enjoy the fact that a lot of these guys have played together. They played together last year in the 905 or on the big club as well. Shit, this is half your rotation. You should be smacking teams by 30, 40 points in the summer league. And yeah, I think Jamal Shed just picking up 94 feet, being that point guard, being surprisingly athletic. You don't really think of Jamal Shed as a super athlete, but some of his closeouts, even that offensive putback that he had in the fourth quarter, these are very athletic plays, and he moves very well. He seems to be a little bit stronger as well. So we'll see. The jump shot is a huge variable for 3 of the Raptors guards, in my opinion. Jamal Shed, Chucky Hepburn, Alijah Martin. And tonight, they all hit some jump shots. So that was pretty cool. Jacoby Walter, he looks bigger. And, I'm very high on Jacoby. I saw some very good stuff tonight. I also saw some mixed results, sometimes getting trapped, losing sort of the focus of the point, hanging on to the basketball too long, driving into a congested double team, passes a little bit off target. Jump shot was, apart from that first jump shot, which obviously went in, he went 1 for 5 from 3. So the first jumper, which I think his foot was on the line, so he's lucky they didn't call that. If I'm not mistaken, I caught it with my eye. But overall, I think he's just adjusting to the bulk, right? It's not easy to put on 10, 12 pounds for a wing and not have a transition period. And he's devoted so much of his offseason. We're definitely going to have his trainer on at some point in the next few weeks. Let me hit Eric up and get him on the show. But we'll talk about what Jacoby's been doing. But, I'm very, very impressed with what I've heard he's been doing. This game definitely wasn't the best that he can do, but I think his handle needs to get a little bit stronger. I think his counters need to get a little bit better. I think he needs to read the game a little bit better. Tried some passes. There were some decent passes, some passes that got tipped away. Both teams played very physical. I will hand the Bulls that. They tried. They tried, man. This was not a team that just folded and died. They were just a team that just could not deal with the force that they were hit with. Jameson Battle was great. I thought he was perfect. I think, +9 doesn't really do him justice. He played with some weak lineups, but man, he just looks so smooth out there. Handled the ball a little bit. Just you can see how he would fit into a lineup that needs players who can do stuff without the basketball. He's very intelligent, and that jump shot looks butter smooth. And it was hitting tonight. Three-pointers hit. Jonathan Mobo, dunk machine, man. Everything at the rim, bro. Everything. And this was a fierce critique of Jonathan Mobo last year, was just he was not finishing inside. Well, Jonathan Mobo is going right back to who he was in college. Just go dunk everything. Just go dunk everything, right? The touch may not be perfect. It's not great. We didn't see a lot of jump shots from Jonathan Mobo tonight. So, didn't attempt a three. I would have liked to see him attempt a few of those, but very efficient around the rim, plus 29, 3 steals, very active, very switchable. You can certainly see a vision where he can really guard 1 through 5. I think the Raptors have 3 or 4 of these guys that are like cheat codes on pick and roll coverage. Jonathan Mobo, Colin Castleton, sorry, not Colin. Wow. Colin Curry Moyles. Okay, wow. Brain, Collin Murray-Boyles, Scotty Barnes, clearly those 3. And they may have a fourth. And yeah, and again, off the bench, just Ulrich, he looks so heavy. Still so raw, insanely raw. He has like 2 moves: set screen, roll, doesn't roll, stands, sets a screen. He's very active. He's insanely active. He has that intense motor. Like a lot of the stuff that I love about Carter Bryant is actually a lot of the stuff I love about Ulrich. He does not give up on plays. He's extremely tough. He got a ton of steals. He got 2 blocks. I think he should have gotten 3 blocks. Like he was everywhere. He was racking up those steals, man. Just those active hands. You just really hope that this player can progress enough in terms of the basketball rawness, right? That he has a lot of skill gaps, that he still has to make up for those skill gaps, and understanding those sort of situations that break apart from the traditional one way he knows how to play. There's so much that still needs to be done here, but hey, he's 19 years old and he's a very hard worker. So it will come. But he spends a lot of G League reps for Ulrich this year as well. But now he'll be going to the G League as a 200 and I want to say 55 to 60 pound. He looks huge. Like, am I crazy? This guy looked like he was the biggest dude on the court by far. 260 pounds easy. He's just moving guys out of the way at this point. And he hasn't really lost that mobility. And, that was the kind of fear that you have when you ask a guy to bulk up is, are they going to retain some of that flexibility, switchability, stuff that makes him such a cheat code? He even delivered a beautiful pass that we'll certainly take a look at some point during the film breakdown of this. I mean, it was a little bit off target. It was a little bit low, but you like the fact that he has sort of a vision, keeps his head up, and then in terms of, basketball, we just keep it very simple, hit the offensive glass. This is not going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is not, more than likely, it's not going to be Serge Ibaka. I watched Serge Ibaka when he was 18. He was doing stuff that Ulrich can't dream of right now. But that being said, this is still a very valuable player. A rim running big who can occasionally shoot a little bit, isn't a total liability from the free throw line, can block shots and can rebound and has a really high motor. That's something that can be serviceable in the league for like 10 to 12 minutes off the bench in the interim. And if it becomes anything more than that, well, now you've really hit home on a 57th overall pick, right? Anyone else off the bench that really just stuck out? Yeah, Alijah Martin, man. I think most of the people who watched this game came away with one takeaway. Holy shit, Alijah Martin. Now, Alijah was a mixed bag for me, right? The good is very good. Made a bunch of alley-oop passes, good connective passes like throughout the game, even ones that didn't convert. It was all very solid, nothing disruptive, no overpounding. Showed decent basketball IQ throughout. The athleticism was jaw-dropping, especially on offense, especially in transition. Like, wow. Like the one that, I don't know what's more impressive, the dunk he hit or the one he didn't, because they were both absolutely mind-boggling Vince Carter style highlight reels. Like, we really don't have a lot of players throughout Raptors history that have consistently, ferociously attacked the rim in such reckless abandon, but also done so with such flair and power and athleticism. Like, this is really something. There's finesse dunkers for sure. And then there are guys like Alijah Martin who just want to yam it on everybody. And, he has a real dog in him. And so he hit a few jumpers. That was a relief, very good. Goes 6 for 12. So he was not shy, taking 12 shots in 21 minutes. And, he hit a couple threes, and that was good. And the form looks consistent, if not replicable, if not remarkable. It still looks consistent. And if he can hit open jumpers, I'm sure he'll find a way to be an NBA player. Here's what's concerning to me. The ball skills in terms of pick and roll navigation. I saw a little bit more of it that was encouraging in the fourth quarter, but in the first quarter, it looked very weak. It looked very weak. The second thing is his lateral quickness as a point of attack defender that's going to pick up 94 feet. Now, we saw Davion Mitchell do this with a lot of success last year, and Davion was hella good at it. And that's really who he is. That's who Davion Mitchell is. He's been doing that his whole life. Elijah got beat every time. He got beat every single time. Now, I have no idea if that's tired legs, if that's, he needs to learn his angles a little bit and trust his length because he does have a 6'7" wingspan. I don't know if it's those things or if it's just the fact that he is very, very, very over leveraged as that type of unleash attack defender. I've heard comparisons to Patrick Beverley. Patrick Beverley has elite lateral quickness. I've heard comparisons to Cason Wallace. Again, elite lateral quickness. If he really had that type of lateral package as like ability to shade the basketball, he probably would have been a first round pick. This is going to be a work in progress. And it's not really, there's certain prospects like Noah Sengay, Carter Bryant. It can go like 8 different ways and they can all be good. With Alijah Martin, it can't go 8 different ways. It has to go one way and it has to be good. If it goes any other way, it's going to be bad. And that way is jump shooting. That's his way out of this. He does not possess the type of size to be a wing at the NBA consistently, but he's going to battle. He does not possess necessarily the quickness laterally to be that type of attack defender like a Cason Wallace, like the aforementioned Davion Mitchell, who was on the Raptors last year. So what does he really do, right? He's going to have to really, really improve his guard skills a lot. He's going to have to be, I don't think he's ever going to be like that primary creator type, but you don't really need that when you have Scotty and Ingram on the same team and you have RJ and Quickly, like whatever. You need a guy who can guard. You need a guy who can guard multiple positions. And I don't think that plus minus is lying to you. The Raptors' defensive identity with him on the court was just better. He made the team better. He was physical. There's a play we'll look at where he just made consistent good play after good play after good play. So it's a very atypical archetype. But, I would probably be saying the same thing about Lu Dort. If I watched Lu Dort in Summer League, I'd be like, how is this guy supposed to be successful? And once again, the answer is jump shooting. If Alijah Martin can become a 40% three-point shooter, then all of the tools and defensive versatility and athleticism and physicality, now you can use it. If he can't serve as a threat off the ball, he doesn't do very much on the ball other than transition. So this is going to be a very interesting development project. I understand it from the Raptors side. I would have preferred Maxime Renault 100%, and Maxime looked amazing for the Sacramento Kings, but I certainly see the vision. Chucky Hepburn, who scored a two-way deal with the Raptors, who y'all remember we did the draft show, and I asked Ersan Demir, who's the first person you call up of the guys who went undrafted? And the first person he said was Chuck Hepburn. So Chucky looked all right. I think he hit one really interesting mid-range shot, missed all of his threes, kind of commanded the floor, got 4 assists. I didn't see anything spectacular out of him, but he has really quick hands on defense. He is a competent defender. Once again, like Alijah Martin, he does not have the capability to stay with quicker guards on the perimeter if he's pressing up 94 feet. This is not a skill that he has. Honestly, the only player on this team that can remotely do it is Jamal Shead, and Jamal Shead is nowhere near doing it as well as Davion Mitchell was last year. So if the Raptors want to play this way, they're going to have to provide a lot of backline help because they're going to get beat a lot. And I guess that's where guys like Scotty Barnes, Collin Murray-Boyles, Brandon Ingram come in, because that's a lot of length to poke at the gaps. I think the most impressive thing about this team, if I want to take sort of a broader overview of how the Raptors won this game before we look at some of the plays, I think the most impressive thing was just how much it felt, to me at least, that they almost made the Bulls not want to play basketball. They played with such force. It was like every play they were pressing up on screens. They're diving for loose balls. It's just so contagious. And again, yeah, it starts with Jamal Shed on this team, but it also starts with Scotty Barnes. You see Scotty Barnes up there. Jonathan Mobo gets a dunk. He's a first person up. He's clapping. He's the loudest person in the gym. He's getting the gym going. He's getting the refs going. He's complaining about calls. You know, it seems that the Raptors, especially last year, really found their defensive identity. And I think a lot of people have just sort of scoffed at it. They've said, hey, they had a weak schedule. But I'll remind you that this team was a top 5 defense for the last 44 games. 44 games is more than half the season. I don't care if the last 20 games of that was a terrible. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter. It wasn't like they were stat padding their defensive rating against really bad teams. No, they were really good defensively, even against good teams. So I think that this team has turned a corner in terms of how they want to approach basketball defense. And it really starts with Scotty, and it starts with Darko, and it starts with, the coaching staff. But it also starts with, what are you incentivizing as a culture? What are you incentivizing as a team? And this team, you can see it. Every loose ball, every tip ball, every deflection, every block, the whole damn bench is up. I can't remember how many times Collin Murray-Boyles got up and he wasn't playing tonight, and he just salute, clap. Scotty Barnes, Emmanuel Quickly, everyone's up. Like, everyone is up, and they're celebrating the right thing. They're not celebrating the made shots and the jumpers. They're celebrating the defensive plays. They're celebrating a guy diving for a loose ball. They're celebrating a guy, getting a steal and then putting a dunk. Like, that's really what you're incentivizing as a culture, and that's what you're elevating. And so it's sort of setting a tone for everybody else who comes into the game, whether you're talking like Quincy Guerrier, right? Quincy comes into the game. Well, he has to play that way. If he's not going to play that way, he's not going to play, period. And you're sort of setting that culture as an organization that this is how we play Raptors basketball. You identify that. If you sign a 10-day with the Oklahoma City Thunder tomorrow, if you know anything about the Oklahoma City Thunder, you have to guard, right? You have to guard. So CMB, Elijah Martin, Chucky Hepburn, Jamal Shed, Jacoby Walter, Ulrich Shamshi, Jamison Battle, like 2 straight drafts. You have done nothing but draft dogs. You don't need very much to incentivize these guys to want to play physical. That's how they already want to play. That's how they've all played. Like Jonathan Mobo, high motor. Jacoby Walter, high motor. I've watched all these guys through college. I've watched a lot of them in high school. I don't think I've ever seen Elijah Martin stop, ever. I talked about it with Derek Queen. Derek Queen was one player that I had some motor concerns about. I said, I don't like what he does when he doesn't have the basketball. Like, he's just standing around. He's not doing anything. Well, nobody on this team has that problem. Nobody. Everybody is diving. Everybody is crashing. Everybody is running. It's so cool to see, man. Especially if you're a fan of this style of basketball. Take a look at some of the moments, and there were so many moments, man. So many moments. The first basket, Jacoby Walter here. Boom. Transition comes up. Oh, I apologize, Jacoby. That is a 3. He did get his foot above the line. That was the first basket. Really set the tone. Here's Scotty up celebrating. I'm gonna have to mute all of these because the audio's on all of them. But here's Scotty Barnes celebrating his team. He's very excited. And that helps, man. You have a guy who just signed a $200+ million contract, and this is summer league, and he's up here in his plaid vest, and he is just clapping for the team. And he sat there. He didn't do that thing that a lot of stars do, where they just come for like the first quarter and then they dip. Like, no, he was there until like halfway through the fourth quarter. He's just there. Another play by Jacoby Walter, and this is more in line with what he has to do. Gets around the help, takes this into 2 defenders, gets pushed in the back, no foul called. Boom. Love it. That was clearly a foul, but finish through contact, show him, that extra weight. Now, one of many plays, and by the way, this mimics exactly a play that Carter Bryant made yesterday that the internet was going crazy about. Look at this. Look at this play by Ulrich. Again, 7'4" wingspan, right? Relentless motor. This wasn't even close. What is this dude thinking throwing that basketball close to Ulrich Shamshi? And just nice touch. Nice touch. Alijah Martin. This dude is going to go so viral so many times this year. Watch this dunk, man. This was legitimately insane. Just, slammed it on him, man. That is not fair. He just, oh my goodness. Alijah Martin. Dude. Okay. Now, not all plays are going to be dunks. Sometimes you have to look at a play like this. Now here, Ulrich is here. Look at this. So Alijah Martin is about to set a screen. Noah Senge overreacts. You'll see. Noah pays attention to it. You see his head tilt there? That's when Ja'Kobe Walter realizes he's going to cut this rookie backdoor. He thinks he's about to go for the Alijah Martin screen. And by the way, this is a cheat code with Alijah Martin. He's a great screener. So 6'2", and you're going to have a dude that you're not going to be able to get around screens. This is just like the Lou Dort situation, right? And here, he just beats him backdoor, and Ulrich sees this the whole way through. Look at how he's scanning the court, and he just waits for Ja'Kobe to get one step, and look at this play. Now, little off target, and I'm pretty sure if Noah Senge was processing the game a little bit better, he could have picked that off. So risky pass to throw around a defender that long, which is why Noah Senge was drafted. But here, close. Nice attempt at pass, but again, little sloppy and little off target from Ja'Kobe Walter. And this was not the first, second, or third pass that he threw that was a little bit like that. Just very off target. He needs to get better at this. Like if he wants to be a guy who can, again, I've heard some people compare him to Shea. He's not Shea. He's not going to be Shea. I'm very high on Ja'Kobe Walter. Put that comparison to rest. It ain't happening. However, can he be some elevated version of KCP? Maybe. He doesn't have the ball skills of Shea. And I don't think he's ever going to get that. But I think he could be a really good defender. And yeah, I think he had some lateral issues today too, like in terms of, picking up full court. Again, you're exposed. When you pick up 94 feet, really, unless you are, in fact, Patrick Beverley, Case and Wallace, guys like this, you really are going to get completely dusted. So the point here isn't, you got to shut your man down. These are NBA players or NBA adjacent players. You're not going to shut them down. What you're going to do is you're going to apply pressure, which is going to slow down the offense, which is going to milk the clock, which is going to make the offense overall less efficient. It's going to tire you out, but it's going to beat the shit out of the other team. And then when you get to the fourth quarter, hopefully, since you play this way all the time and they don't play this way all the time, you're going to be fresher. And this hopefully is going to allow Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram and guys like this, like these workers on this end, are going to make those guys a little bit more efficient as well, because you're going to be facing tired defenses, right? Defenses that have, and it'll make your defense more effective as well, because you'll face offenses that go later into the clock. You're going to face offensive players who've just been getting beaten up the whole damn game. There's a real reason why the OKC Thunder were so damn efficient. Take a look at this. This was initially called a foul. He recovered from the 3-point line to get to this. I mean, again, he's still on the floor. We saw this many times. He has some sort of go-go gadget legs where he can just get up. You would think he has no business getting there. You go up, he's standing. You keep going up, he's still standing. And then next thing you know, he's right there with you, swatting your shot into the fourth row. Ulrich Shamshi is a very special shot blocker. His hand-eye coordination on these plays is absolutely insane. His coordination overall as an athlete is absolutely insane. Just nuts. Okay. Now here comes the Elijah Martin special. A lot of Elijah Martin plays here. Now here, his lone three-pointer, well, one of 2 3-pointers that he hit here. Nice. You look at the form, it's high, it's relatively quick. I don't love where his guide hand is. It's a little clunky, but jump shooters who are very broad like this, they don't look natural. They're always going to look a little bit clunky. He's not ever going to you're never going to confuse him with Allen Iverson. Like, he's not fluid, right? But he just needs to hit these shots. Like, it doesn't matter. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with his form. I just want to bring that up there. Like, everything that I'm seeing on screen right now is right. His right foot is slightly ahead. He's relatively square to the basket. He's finishing high. He's not bringing it up from his chin. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with his jump shot. He's just not a really good jump shooter. Like, he never shot like 39, 40%, in that range. And now he's going up a level. So the 3-point line is expanded. Again, back-to-back plays here for Elijah Martin. Good plays. Jonathan Mobo does this. Jonathan Mobo did this a few times, right? But here, Noah Senge just gets picked off here. Now, Mobo is going to pass. And the first guy back is literally 5'7". So he has no chance. And Noah Senge had no chance either. So, okay. I will never understand people like you. I straight up won't. Like, I will never understand people like you. Straight up. You have too much time on your hands. Your parents should absolutely ban your internet connection. I think Rogers or your television, I think you should put on, honestly, I think you should be put on a fucking watch list. If you got time to do this, banned, fuck out of here. Okay. I'm not even kidding. FBI watch lists. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay. Now, this is the dunk that does not go through. This is the dunk that does not go through, but this is hilarious, man. Dude, if he doesn't get fouled on this, that's not principle of verticality. First of all, freeze frame that shit. You can't lean your arms forward. That's a foul, okay? There's not principle of verticality. That's a foul. And they let this shit go on because these referees are drunk, okay? Boom. That would have been the best dunk of the summer league. And they just took it away from him, bro. Well, we sure he's 6'2". Oh, believe me, he is absolutely 6'2". He might be actually 6'1", but it doesn't matter. He's like 6'1.5", actually, barefoot. And then he's got a 6'7" wingspan. But you saw all 6'7", 7.5 of that wingspan on display there. Like, this is nuts, man. Like, the force with which he attacks the basketball, he's like Amari Stoudemire. You know what I mean? Like, you just drafted 6'2" Amari Stoudemire. That's pretty much like the comp here. That's the type of athlete he is. It's really nuts. I really don't know if that dunk right there that he missed was more impressive than the dunk that he made. This is back-to-back plays again, and I want to show you why I think this Raptors team is like the OKC Thunder. Watch this. Okay, this all happens in the span of 24 seconds. Okay, now watch this. Chucky Hepburn drives, makes his only shot. Now, he did this plenty of times in college, so not surprised he gets this shot off. It's going to be difficult to get this shot off in the NBA. Not going to lie. I don't have a lot of high hopes at this point for Chucky Hepburn being a long-term NBA player, but if he can guide your G League team and become anything serviceable for you, that's a win for an undrafted free agent. I'm not higher on him than I was, say, for instance, last year on Jameson Battle. Like, Jameson Battle, I can see a real vision, but hey, he's a solid point guard. It's good defense, good hands. Let's see, Now, look at Chucky Hepburn, Elijah Martin, converge, right? Now, Elijah Martin is credited with this steal, but where does the steal really happen? Boom, right there. It's Chucky Hepburn who sort of pokes it away, and then Elijah Martin just takes it away, and then boom, here comes transition. Obviously, Colin Castleton slows some shit down here. Now, Miss. Once again, Chucky Hepburn. Back to back, bro. Let me just play this all out so you can see it without me chopping it. I'll put the volume up.
Continue to light up the scoreboard and light it up on defense.
You see my point? This team is very reminiscent of OKC. Their players are reminiscent of OKC. It's just a very impressive performance overall. Okay, we have Tonius in for a call. If you would like to call in, provided you are not a troll, if you would like to call in and discuss anything Summer League related, Raptors related, Raptors roster related, we have a little bit of time and we can certainly talk about it. So we're going to have Tonius on, but if anyone else would like to call, the link is in the description. And first, before we let Tonius on, hold on and just get to a super chat here. Christian Burton said, Mobo was my Raps player of the game tonight. Yeah, I certainly see it. Jonathan Mobo was awesome. I think a lot of people were really worried when we drafted Collin Murray-Boyles that, oh my God, like you have two of these guys now. I mean, that's not a bad problem to have, man. Jonathan Mobo was an actual NBA defender last year. Shed showed moments, flashed moments. Walter flashed moments. Mobo was the real deal as a defender, man. Like all these players, with the exception of Jameson Battle, project to be above 50th percentile high watermark defenders. But Jonathan Mobo projects to be a special defender. And Collin Murray-Boyles does too. So you can definitely work with two really intelligent defenders who can pass the basketball. Like I understand the spacing and the shooting might be a little bit, but if you're going to play this way, you need quick rotations. You don't have necessarily the luxury of playing guys 11-minute stints if you're going to play this hard. So having that sort of hockey line, 2-3 guys that are just constantly coming in and being pests, whether that's like, okay, we go quickly shed, swap, right? So quickly plays balls to the wall for, 5 minutes. Shed comes in, relieves him, plays balls to the wall for 4 minutes, quickly comes in for 5 minutes like that. You can definitely make more frequent switches if you're going harder like that. Okay, let's bring Tonius on. Tonius, what's up, man?
Hey, good evening, man. So I missed most of the game because my friends dragged me out to watch opening day of Superman from James Gunn. So I just watched the second quarter during the end credits, and I was like, oh, okay, we're up by a lot, so that's awesome. And then, thanks for showing all those little highlight clips of what happened and, breaking down. So thank you for that. So I was away from the country for about 3 weeks because it was an Iceland cruise. And then I found a couple on the Iceland cruise. They were actually a U of H alumni. And then I went up to them and I told them, I said, hey, is that U of H? Is that University of Houston? He says, yeah, I graduated there from 1970. He said, dude, thank you for Jamal Shed. And then their eyes lit and he says, oh, you're welcome. You're from Toronto? I says, yeah. And then they showed me shots that they had selfie pictures with Jamal Shed on the championship game. They managed to get tickets for, so I was pretty lucky for them. And then
that's dope.
Yeah. And then hey, knock on wood, I don't want any of those last year's summer minor injuries or accidentals happening to our summer league team, because I want that extra game 4+1 because I want to make it to the playoffs and watch more summer league games. So knock on wood. But as we know, we had the CMB update, but they said he's good again. He's good for game 2, so I think it's just super precautionary.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't. Can we please not see Colin Castleton again? I know we need a standard on low standard or the kind of semi-standard, but I just don't like seeing that guy play. I know we got a couple more games remaining, but I just don't want to see Castleton play.
Is it his face?
His face is kind of funny and his neck is longer than his wingspan, but I mean, yeah, he's there. And I'm so glad everybody got to see one Alijah dunk, and I wish we had the second one, but that
would have been awesome, man.
And then I didn't know Yuki was on the Bulls, so I demand the Bulls to play him for full 40 minutes, please, because we all love Yuki Kawamura, and I want to see him on the floor all the time.
Why?
They have it. Yeah, the Bulls have a Japanese player who was on Memphis, and then everyone was going crazy for the guy whenever Memphis was blowing out a team, and they wanted to get Yuki Kawamura on. So that was the guy. That was the 5'7" guy that you saw.
Right. No, I'm aware of who Yuki is. Why would you want anyone to play him 48 minutes?
Because I want to see him play. That's all that matters. Oh, and then a couple of final things. I failed your donut test. Shoot. As soon as I ate that donut that I knew that was like in a case, and I knew it was more than 12 hours, and I bit in the donut, and I thought, oh my God, I totally failed your test. It means I have a little bit. I still am trying to challenge myself to not be impatient, but then I totally
right.
went impatient.
Well, the donut test is specifically that you're promised fresh donuts and you opt for the stale donuts. Unless you were actually promised fresh donuts, you did not fail the test. Anyway, Tonius, thanks a lot for calling in, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Just final thing. I think I do like the Collin Murray-Boyles trade. I think symbolically this was Masai's final try to get that PJ Tucker on our team, because it was stolen from him back in 2008, 2006, 2007 when he got him in the second round. And then I think he fit in the culture, but for some reason Colangelo threw him away into the Colorado 49ers. And then
I promise you, if you watch more CMB, you're not going to see PJ Tucker in this game. I promise you that. But yeah. All right, man. Peace.
Right. Have a good night, man.
Yeah, you too. Okay. Next up, Corollas. What's up?
Hey, how's it going?
Not bad. How are you?
I'm good, you?
I'm good.
Sorry. Yeah, really interesting game. I loved what I've seen from Chomchi. Like I don't know if he looks bigger, possibly, but he looks
he's definitely
more less timid, I would say. Like he actually had some really ballsy plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Martin, damn, he can jump off the court for sure. Before Summer League, I was seeing him a bit as Everly Bradley. I know, maybe odd comparison. I feel like he probably
I'm so
needs
sorry.
to,
We're gonna have to speed this up. Do you have a question?
not really a question. Well, like I just wanted to know your opinion on Chomchi. Like, how do you see him progress?
Okay. All right. Thanks for your call, man. I appreciate you.
Okay, bye.
Yep. Yeah. So to answer that question, how do I see Shamshi progressing? I think I see him very much like a step-by-step building. You know, like you gotta go and rebuild all the fundamentals that he didn't pick up playing the game of basketball. He has a lot to work with. It's just like with Alijah Martin, just like with Collin Murray-Boyles. There's elements to add, but there's a really, really good piece of clay that you're working with here. With Shamshi, you're working with elite athlete, right? Elite athlete with elite motor, with a great absorption for the game. So the jumper has to come at some point. I think it should. The timing, sort of the understanding of what to do when you don't have the basketball. It's a very unnatural thing. If you watch him play basketball, it's an extremely unnatural process where, again, he just seems like he's playing basketball like a high schooler. And I have watched high schoolers with far, far, far greater feel for the game. And if you go and watch a guy like Derek Queen, as many issues as you may have with the flat jumper, or you might have with weight issues, you might clown that. Derek Queen is a guy who understands how to play basketball. Like he just fundamentally has a working knowledge of the game and how to play it. So you're going to get this through playing. You're not going to get this by sitting and learning only. You have to play games. And so the more Shamshi plays, and I think that's sort of the sad part of, you know, him missing last season, was he didn't get those reps. And that's very critical development. And I've always believed that at an earlier age, it's much easier to fix mistakes and fix gaps. But the good thing is Chomsky is a blank slate, doesn't really have a lot of bad habits. So that's the thing. Johnny A saying 450 watching, smash the likes, y'all. Absolutely, please do. WYSO, what's up, man?
Hey, how's it going?
How's it going?
Not bad. So first of all, I gotta apologize to Alijah Martin because I was talking shit before the game, and I think my bias towards Reynaud and Nemhart and us not drafting them kind of clouded my vision on him. But
I apologize.
He performed well. Yeah, awesome. My question for you, man, what is your issue with AJ Lawson? I never hear you talking about him. Obviously, he was a standout from this game. When he had standout games this past season, I know you would just wave it off and you're like, oh, he's one of the expendable players if we need the trade, or waive him. Mm-hmm. What don't you see in him that maybe you do see in guys like Battle?
Yeah, so the way I see basketball is very much how does what you do help me win basketball games, right? So AJ Lawson is a decent defender, but he's not a defensive specialist. He's not a great defender.
He stood out this game defensively, right? Like on ball at least.
He was much better. Yeah, for sure. But you are also talking about a guy who's been doing this for 5 years, going up against 18 or 19-year-olds at times, right? Yeah, like Matas Buzelis is literally 19 years old. Noah Senge is 18. If you can't beat the shit out of those guys, it doesn't matter. So again, I look at a guy like Jamison Battle. There's movement shooting upside. He's incredibly intelligent, and his entire utility is low usage. He doesn't need the basketball to be successful. Whereas with AJ Lawson, if you buy him as a super catch and shoot shooter, I could see the value, right? Because he can do all the other stuff. But from your fifth guy, fourth guy, you don't need some of the stuff that he does. So he's like, how can I describe it? He's like a EuroLeague MVP type. I don't want to say MVP, but he'd be like a star in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. If some of his basketball IQ, and if he can really become a lockdown defender and a knockdown three-point shooter, well, that's an archetype that now you can fill in the role currently occupied by someone like Jacoby Walter, right? So again, I think if he was 19 or 20, I might have a little bit more hope that, maybe this could just blossom into an actual star. But he's like, yeah, it's a tricky archetype. Like, it's like if you watch Imani Bates, put up like 20, 28 points, he's going to be out of the league soon, right? It's not that his game is not very visually appealing. It is. It's not like he can't put up buckets. It is. But the NBA,
I see the catch and shoot stuff, and I don't know. I don't know if it's a reach to say he could be like a Malik Beasley, just off the bench flamethrower 3-point shooter. I know he's not as much of a movement shooter as Jacoby or Battle, but just his catch and shoot stuff is really, the numbers are there. I think it's like 45% or something. So I don't know. I believe it. If we could have him off the bench at like $2 million or something, like if he's a really cheap contract, I like the idea of keeping him. I'm not for just trying to get rid of him to make space for other guys, but I also understand your points. He's not an on-ball guy, and I do see some of his holes.
He's played close to 70 games over the last 2 years, okay, between Dallas and Toronto. In those two stints, I just want to remind you, he has shot 26% from three with Dallas and 32% with Toronto. League average last year was 36. League average the year before was 36.7. So you can't survive on the NBA court if you're going to be below 35 to 36%. And when you look at Jamison Battle, we're talking about a 40-plus three-point shooter. The concept here isn't even about makes and misses and the shots that he takes or shots that he misses. It's irrelevant. That's not the point. I mean, that's not irrelevant. It's definitely part of it. Obviously, more points is better. What matters here is, are you creating space for Brandon Ingram? Are you creating space for Scotty Barnes? If I put you on the court, Grady did create space. Whether he shoots 35%, 38%, doesn't matter. Jacoby creates space as well, whether he shoots 34% or 38%. They're respected shooters. So with Lawson, these hot games, will probably stick in your memory, the 22, 26 point, whatever.
That's probably what it is.
Extremely cold games as well. So the other thing that I would say about a role player, especially one coming off the bench, is you have to be consistent. I have to know what I'm getting from you. When I put Alex Caruso or Lou Dort or someone like that into the game, I know exactly what they're giving me. So that's why I say this 3-and-D archetype is the best way for a player like AJ Lawson to extend his NBA career. It's not that he's a bad player. He's a very good player. I definitely I see a world in which maybe in a previous era he would be, a sixth man for somebody, but the league is just so talented at this point, and it doesn't really matter how much you can do. It matters what you can do for the team. And if you're a 32% three-point shooter, and over the last 2 years, you're 28.5% three-point shooter, you're not creating space for my guys. That's all it is.
Yeah, no, that's fair. All right, cool.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
All right,
Cheers.
peace. Yeah. Nolan, what's up? Oh, no, wrong one. Nolan, what's up?
Hey, Pen, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, man. So today I sent you something on Twitter about KCP for RJ Barrett. That's kind of part of
Oof.
one of my questions. I thought that, the portability of a guy like KCP compared to RJ when it
Right.
comes to this Raptors team in the current iteration of the roster makes a bit more sense. I know KCP was coming off of a year where he kind of struggled to shoot the ball, but I think in a system that revolves around Scotty Barnes. I mean, we saw how well KCP played with Jokic, and we've kind of talked about the idea of how, Scotty could try to replicate some of the things that Jokic does, like passing the ball wise. So I just thought, that would be kind of a good trade for the Raptors, even though it's kind of a lesser player. It's a guy that fits better with the roster. So I just kind of want to hear your thoughts on that. And also, another question is that if you had to pick, one of the younger guys that's on this current roster, even if some of the guys that were on the summer league team this year, which one do you think will be the most impactful in terms of helping the Raptors win basketball games
What
this
was your
year?
first question? I'm sorry. I was reading our private chat. I don't know if you can see our private chat right now. It is fucking disgusting.
Yeah, I don't know what
Yeah.
he's saying, but yeah, no.
Yeah,
My first
so-
question was kind of more so geared toward what are your thoughts about a potential trade with the Memphis Grizzlies, like swapping RJ for KCP?
Okay, got you. And then the second question was about which of these young players do I think has the greatest upside?
Yeah.
Is Collin Murray-Boyles included in that?
I would say so, yeah.
Is Jacoby included in that?
Yes. Like any guy that is like
Under 25?
year 1
Or-
to year like 2 or 3, like with
Oh,
this
okay.
roster.
So year 1 to year 3 guys on this team. Okay. Yes, the first question, the KCP for RJ swap. I think looking at this team right now with how it's assembled, right? Looking at Mobo, Boyles, like Murray Boyles, Jakob, like you have a lot of guys who really can't create their own offense worth a lick, right? RJ can create his own offense. It just isn't the most efficient brand of offense. And once again, RJ suffers from a similar affliction, not quite to the same level as AJ Lawson, which is, when you're the fourth option, what are you really doing for my guys? So, yeah, in a lot of ways, KCP makes a lot of sense, but then KCP is also another guy who needs shots generated for him, right? So, and he's older and he's expensive and he has 2 years left on his deal, if I'm not mistaken, and so does RJ. So
Yeah.
for a modest saving, and I understand the Raptors are over the tax, you're giving up a much better player, in my opinion, at this point. And there's no disrespect to KCP, and that's not glazing RJ. I just think KCP was awful last year. And I think outside of the context of Denver, as an aging asset who's 32, I believe 32 going on 33, he just doesn't make sense for this team. You already have that skill set. And I understand he's a better defender than Grady, and I understand that he's maybe more experienced and more steady than Jacoby, but I mean, it kind of just gets in their way, doesn't it? And
I
with
mean, to be-
RJ, at
Sorry,
least you have a point forward, right? Like you have a guy who can actually generate offense. It may not be the most efficient brand of offense, but it's a skill set you simply do not have on this team, RJ Barrett.
Yeah, fair enough. I would say to that in counter argument is that like KCP's best years have been in a system where you have a guy that is super high Q, super high processor in terms of facilitating with Jokic, and then when he was with the Lakers with LeBron, right? So
Mhm.
I just kind of see like the vision of like if Scotty is going to be that guy, could KCB benefit from that? You
I
know?
think if Scotty is going to be that guy, then RJ Barrett, like I'm going to say this, like I think this kind of extends to your, second question as well. If Scotty really does take that leap, and I was listening to Zach Lowe's podcast, and they were sort of talking about like, okay, well, if Scotty Barnes speaks that superstar leap, this is a completely different equation, and I completely agree with that. Uh, so that to me is very important to realize that when you have that type of jump from a guy, typically your contention window and everything changes. So at that point, RJ Barrett is getting packaged with a bunch of picks to get a massive upgrade anyway, in my opinion. Right? This team adjusts. They've always adjusted. I can't remember the last trade deadline where the Raptors didn't make a trade. They always do. And it's largely because you just have that 50 games or 48 games and you understand where you're going. And if Scotty Barnes is legitimately, jumping into superstar tier and Ingram is healthy and you're pushing 55 wins and you have a wide open East and whatever, well, yeah, RJ is the obvious trade package. But at that point, you're not trading him for KCP. You're probably trading him for Lauri Markkanen, right? You're probably adding some stuff and you're trying to trade for Lauri Markkanen or something like that to add a boost because Lauri is better than RJ. Whereas KCP, in my opinion, right now is worse. And I understand what you're saying about like, well, couldn't KCP be unlocked playing next to a player like that? Well, I'll remind you, he played with Paolo Banchero last year. And Paolo's a really good playmaker, and it just didn't matter. And I think there's just certain, and I understand Paolo is not on the level of Scotty, and then Scotty's not on the level of Jokic and maybe LeBron. But still, I have a feeling he might be washed. I think I think it's okay to entertain the possibility that KCP just isn't that great at basketball anymore. So yeah,
I mean, that's a fair assessment on KCP.
Yeah.
And just to the second part of my question there, what would your answer be with the younger guys?
I'm inclined to say Collin Murray-Boyles. I'm inclined to say that
Right.
largely because I think his like I was trying to think like how he would have done today, right? Like how much better could the Raptors really be than almost whooping a team by 50, right? And I think what he does is he's so physical, right? So there's a version of this that really doesn't turn into a star, but just turns into kind of like Corliss Williamson, right? Like that physical, undersized guy, but Corliss Williamson with like crazy good defense because he's very disruptive. He has a super high motor. He is extremely, switchable, and he legitimately could guard like 4 positions tomorrow. Like I think he'll give some point guards some work. I think he'll give some centers some work, but that
Oh yeah,
two,
for
three,
sure.
four, like he can guard them all. And when he was standing up on the bench, like he was standing next to Ulrich, and he was wider than Ulrich, dude. Like he was just as wide as Ulrich, And this is a guy who could legitimately play small forward for you. So he's a big dude, man. He's small,
Oh
but
yeah.
he's big. He's kind of a walking contradiction in that sense. If I had to give my second beyond CMB, it would be Jacoby. If it would be beyond Jacoby, it would be Grady. Beyond Grady, it would be Ulrich. And then beyond that is probably Jamal Shed. And then we get into Jamison Battle, and then probably Elijah Martin, and then maybe Chucky Hepburn, if I had to rate it like that. I don't know where Ochai falls into all of this. I feel like we often forget that he's even on the team, but he is on the team, and he is better than, in theory, he's better than every single player who played for us today. So, yeah, the Raptors are interesting because, the last time they were in the play-in, there wasn't a single player on the bench that Nick Nurse really trusted. Or like, it was just like, okay, we got to go with the starters all the time. And now, you just have like 8, 9 kind of guys coming off the bench, and any one of them could pop. And if any one of them could become a 40% three-point shooter, it changes the equation completely. I actually think Elijah Martin, in a lot of ways, replaces Ochai Agbaji.
I also agree with that. See, it's
Yeah.
funny because you have Elijah, roughly like 5th or 6th on your like list of guys that could help impact winning.
Mhm.
I'm actually a lot higher on Elijah Martin than I think maybe the majority is, just because I see the build. He obviously came from a winning culture in Florida this past year. Um, and I just, with the Raptors development staff, with the way that they develop their players, I
Mhm.
just see that there's a high ceiling for Elijah Martin in my mind. And I see like a Lou Dort archetype, right? And we see how valuable that kind of archetype of player is. So I'm really high on Elijah Martin.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I certainly get it. He is, a player who's been to back-to-back Final Fours for a reason. He does impact winning. I'm curious how that translates when everybody gets so much faster and so much bigger, because like it's basketball, but it's physics, right? There's plenty of really great winning players in the collegiate level. Christian Leitner comes to mind. That just did not translate that impact to the NBA. It does come back to, does what you do scale well? And that's when I look at someone like Carter Bryant. I look at someone like Noah Senge. I look at someone like Eve Misi last year. The physics, of how they can achieve what they can achieve. Maybe the game isn't fully developed. Maybe the handle isn't fully there, but at least there are like some serious physical advantages there. I haven't seen a lot of guards who are 6'1" who've survived without being point of attack demons and lights out shooters. Like, I think I'll harken back to something that Fred VanVleet said, which is if you're a guard who's 6'1" or under, and I would count Alijah in that situation, even though he's more of a wing in purest sense, he's more like a wing. He's like a 3-4 in terms of how he plays, and he's a 1 in terms of how he stands. I think the best, Fred said, you have to pick up 94 feet, you have to be very competitive on defense, and you have to shoot. And I would extend that out to be, you have to shoot deep, because point guards are big. Like, point guards are getting very big and very quick. And so you see a guy like Jeremiah Fears, 6'2", 6'2.5", 6'3", but lightning quick. You're seeing guys like Nolan Traore, 6'3 plus. Those are the small guys. Those are the small guys. So, I appreciate Elijah's, sort of dogness. And I think he is a huge cultural tentpole for what the Raptors are doing, because I think that's the most important thing. The Raptors, under Masai Ujiri in the last 2 years, there was this massive, massive push to, we got to change the culture. We got to change the culture. Well, job well done. You have changed the culture. What I watched today was a completely fundamentally different team from those sad ass Malachi Flynn led, summer league teams, and Delano Banton and Ron Harper Jr. Like, man, those teams
Oh
were depressing.
God,
Those
don't
teams were
remind me.
depressing as fuck to watch. Like, I'm gonna be real. This team was not depressing to watch. This team was inspiring. This team makes you want to go out and hoop. This team makes you want to go out and like lock up your nephew, in a game of ones. So this is cool, like this is it's a cool thing that they've done. They've restructured their identity around their best player, in my opinion, is Scotty. And they found people who fit into his style of basketball, which is motivating. Everybody is cheering for everybody right now. And I can just sort of imagine it, like, those practices. Like, there was an interview with Sandro Mamukelashvili, and he's trying to talk to Josh Lewenberg, and all you're hearing is screaming in the background. Everybody's screaming. And I'm not like wild screaming, but it's like they're cheering for each other and they're doing drills. And so it's like, dude, like, this is the dream right here. Like, this. If you've been around a winning organization, this is how winning organizations practice, right? And so every single time you're going to practice, you're going to have this type of intensity. You're going to have a whole bunch of young guys who are looking at each other like, how much harder is Ochai Agbaji working right now after watching Elijah Martin do this? He's like, shit, man, my roster spot's here. How much harder is Grady Dick working after watching Jacoby Walter do this? Like, how much harder is CMB going to work knowing that Jonathan Mobo is like right behind him? And now you just got to figure out how to bring guys together and keep guys engaged when they're not playing. It's going to be a long season. Darko is definitely one of those coaches who can get the best out of you and keep you honest and be honest with you. And, Davion Mitchell mentioned it last year. He's like, I just appreciate that they tell me ahead of time when I'm not playing. Like, it helps me a lot. And I think people will forgive that, and you build this sort of culture and camaraderie. Like, look at what OKC did. Like, Jalen Williams, Jay Will in the finals did not play. And he was playing all year. And he was a really good player. And he was huge in terms of their win over Denver. But they just felt that he was the wrong matchup for Indiana. You never saw that guy sulk once. Never saw him sulk once. He didn't demand out. Instead, he signs a very team-friendly deal and extends because he just wants to be there. Like, this is infectious. You're creating something unique. There aren't a lot of teams in the league that are disconnected. And I think, being connected is a huge part of winning on any level. So it's just very beautiful to see this team.
Yeah, and I think that's why, guys like Garrett Temple are so valuable to the Raptors in their locker room because, like you
Sure.
just said, like the cohesiveness of your locker room and how your guys are, like that contributes to your impact on winning as well. Like OKC had an immaculate vibe around their locker room, and it carried, and it helped them. So only good
Absolutely.
things for the Raptors.
Absolutely. And you brought in a whole bunch of, guys like, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, Jakob Pertl, and Brandon Ingram. Those are your 4 starters around Scotty. I would never accuse any of those people of being not hardworking. Like, they're all gym rats. They're all people who devote the hours into the gym. So you don't have anybody who's going to come in and spoil your culture by, setting a bad example, right? And again, like, it's my girlfriend and I were talking about something that was weirdly connected to this, but not at all connected to this, but I'll share it with you. So we were talking about like how impressionable children are, right? So like how they're always scanning their environments and they're always trying to learn like what are the patterns that I'm supposed to follow in order to be a successful human being in this world. And
Yeah,
so I gave the example of what would happen if the child at the age of 5 or 6 witnessed their parents having a discussion about the father's diabetes and how he needs to avoid sweets, right? Don't be eating chocolate, don't be eating ice cream, et cetera, et cetera. And so, the parents have a debate about it. The father agrees, the mother is consoled. And then one morning when the child is eating breakfast, the father sneaks into the, kitchen and sneaks a little chocolate and says, shh, don't tell mom, right? That is now setting a blueprint for that child for the rest of their life that lying is okay, you know? And we were talking about the inverse, which is, how do you teach a child accountability? Well, the most important lesson that you can tell a child is there's nothing that you've ever done and there's nothing you're ever going to do that is so serious we can't talk about it. And how do you actually go about implementing that is you actually show them through behavior, through modeled behavior. So I think about a guy like Chucky Hepburn comes into the league and he's not a child. He's not a 5-year-old child. He's a 23-year-old grown man. I see a guy like Alijah Martin coming in, Collin Murray-Boyles, 20 years old. But these guys are all going to learn from the guys ahead of them what it means to be a professional basketball player. So does it mean, that you don't pay attention to your coaches, that you talk back to your coaches, that you don't dial up in practice, that you show up 20 minutes late? Like when teams like the Lakers sign a player like DeAndre Ayton, and shout outs to one of our community members for sending me the Athletic article on DeAndre Ayton. Like the quotes are scathing, man. Shows
yeah,
up late for practices, shows up late for playing, walks around like he fucking owns the place and shit like that. Keep that shit the fuck away from my locker room, because there is going to be a
please.
rookie who is going to watch that guy and say, well, he has an 8-year career. If he can do it, I can do it too. No, it's about get that contract chasing, stat padding, self-absorbed, selfish bullshit basketball away and bring in a culture where everybody plays by the same rules. And it's a little bit like geek culture, right? You go there, you either buy in or you get out. Like
Oh,
there's nothing,
definitely.
there's nothing too big about it. So yeah.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, I appreciate your time there, Pen, and
Yeah.
hopefully we have a good season.
Yeah, absolutely. All right,
Yeah.
man. Cheers.
Cheers.
We have clearly invited a world of trolls tonight, and it's not entertaining at all when you have trolls of this audacity. You should read the private messages we have here. This person called in and wrote the N word 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12 times. 12 times. Directed at me for some fucking reason. And now is coming into the chat and saying stuff like that. That's weird to me. Very weird. How do you see the private chat? Well, we have a private chat on StreamYard. And when you call in, you are able to write in the private chat just in case. But your parents didn't raise you right. That's what I'll say to you. There's been a lot of overreactions to summer league so far. I would definitely say that. people swearing off prospects, people saying Cooper Flag is overrated. Carter Bryant is overrated. This guy's overrated. This guy's overrated. My God, y'all get a grip. I will show you something. I'm clearly been locked in to Summer League. I've been watching every single game I can. There's things you can observe in Summer League. There are things that I don't think you can really observe in Summer League. And there's things that you should care about and maybe things you shouldn't care about in Summer League. And I think you need a bit of a trained eye to watch it, right? So let's take a look at this little clip here put together of Carter Bryant last night. Going a little bit wild here, 114,000 views. Take a look at some of the stuff that you can tell. Motor is something that you absolutely should pay attention to in Summer League. I will give you my blueprint for what you should watch for in Summer League. Just take a look at this Carter Bryant clip here, but I'm going to show you this because I posted this to Instagram, and I think that it is a valuable thing for anyone watching Summer League in terms of at least what I value. Certainly don't have to value the same thing I value, but this is what I value in Summer League. It's my Summer League, quote unquote, checklist. So my Summer League checklist is as follows. Do you guard? This is primarily one of the most important questions for me, not just as a Raptor fan, but just in general. Like, do you guard? Like, do you guard your position? Do you guard up a position, down a position? Are you switchable? Like, do you care? Can you move your hips? Can you get over a screen? Are you physical? That stuff. Do you guard? Number two, do you invite contact? There are certain players that are contact averse. There are certain players that get a little bit bodied up and then they just freeze up and die and then they just quit on the game. There was an example, Bronny James really bodying up Cooper Flag, trying to have his moment against the number one pick, and Cooper got bodied up a little bit, then he got fouled. And the very next play, he hit a jumper on Bronny James. That was a huge sign for me that, hey, he doesn't back down. You get physical with this guy, he comes back at you. That's important to me. And, do you invite contact, which is, are you shying away from contacting your finishes? You're leaving your finishes short at the rim because you're trying not to get injured or whatever, or are you going with full force? And I like players who attack with full force. The third thing is, what's your body language like after a miss? There are some guys that look like the earth is frozen and, shit has just hit the fan and, things didn't go their way. I don't like bad body language. Bad body language is very, very infectious. And it can be, this is something we've talked about on the panel where some of us have had bad body language. I've certainly had bad body language. Need to work on that. Good body language means head up, shoulders high. This is good body language. You will automatically, I'll tell you something right now. I'll give you a life hack, right? If you are ever feeling bad about life, about anything, stand up straight, put your shoulders up against the wall for about, have a friend or a partner or a brother, sister, parent, whatever. Press your shoulders up against the wall. Align yourself a little bit against the wall. Have your shoulders lean back. Breathe a little bit differently and tell me how you feel after 1 minute. Change everything. Body language is infectious, but it can also be very much determining your psychology and your, physiology and everything. The fourth one, do you read the floor? Defensively and offensively, I want to see how quickly you're processing the information that's coming at you. Number 5, do you understand your role? This is very important to me. If you're a 3-and-D guy, do you 3-and-D? Or are you sitting there trying to hot sauce dribble and work on, there are certain guys that think for some stupid reason, and I promise you it's not true, that if you put up 25 points in a summer league game, that you're going to get a roster invite or that coaches are going to care. They don't care. Good coaches don't care that you put up 25 in summer league. This is a glorified pickup run. And we're trying to see how well you are able to fit around the players that you will need to fit around. We're trying to see your attitude. We're trying to see your, work ethic. We're trying to see how many errors you make. I promise you, playing scared is not good, but that leads to my next point. Are you reactive or proactive? This is very important to me as well. Are you coming out there and playing your game, or are you letting the defense decide your game? And that's not the same thing as taking what the defense gives you and making smart plays, but are you allowing the defense to shift you around a little bit? The fourth from the bottom is, do you care about the details? Right. Now, I understand it's not like super scouted games with great game plans and whatever. These teams are barely put together and they have a handful of practices before they actually hit. But if you really want to make an impression, do a little bit of scouting. Go watch the players in the other team, so you're not completely blind. Go watch Yuki highlights and see what he does, right? That's, to me, very important. And in terms of executing your own game plan, yeah, your angle on the screen matters. Your technique defensively, your details. Like, are you someone who cares about details? Are you making others better, either by your influence on the bench or your energy or your help defense or your communication on the court, etc.? This kind of stuff matters to me a lot. Are you locked in during timeouts, broken plays, dead clock situations? Are you just gazing off into space, or are you locked in? Bro, we need you for 2 hours. You can't give me 2 hours. You can't give me 2 hours of your attention. Something else on the fucking wall or in the crowd is way more important to you. I need you locked in. Are you making the same mistakes or learning? And this is why we play, 3, 4, 5 summer league games. And, the Spurs will play 2, sets of summer league games. And it's basically to give players a chance to go through film studies. So Carter, definitely my favorite rookie in this draft class, and one that I'm going to be supporting a lot through our Spurs podcast this year. I think he was great, man. His tenacity and everything. But it wasn't just his play on the court. I mean, he hasn't shot the ball well. It's this stuff. Look at this.
Good take, guys. Good take, baby. Red. Ooh. Yo,
How much do you think that changes his team? Him communicating like that, him screaming after plays like that. Like, this dude changed the entire Spurs DNA defensively yesterday. And I think the idea of him going down with Wemby is going to be insane. Some of you watch the panel, and I'm not the only person that's like super blown away by Carter Bryant. Take a look at what Chilltown Hoops had to say.
Eric Espinoza, as a Spurs fan, watching Carter Bryant show his defensive prowess last night was amazing and gives me OG Anunoby vibes, and can't wait for this kid to fully develop his game.
Right, but this is the shit I be talking about. Like this kid Carter Bryant. The thing that I talk about when I watch Summer League, I need to see translation. You can't teach guys to run fast and jump high, and you can't teach motor. This kid Carter Bryant is, and I'm sorry, because I get excited about dudes like this. These are the dudes. I'm sorry, Moz. I get excited about dudes like this because these are the dudes that coaches are looking at, like Jordan, going, I got to find some minutes for him. I don't care who else is on the crew. This dude is playing. I'm going to find some run for him. And I can put him anywhere. I can put him at the swing. I can put him at the 2. I can put him at the 4. I'm going to find some run for this dude, though. I love him. His motor more than anything. And
Stephon Castle, Carter Bryant,
his nose in there, playing defense, consistently being in front of guys. There was times when he didn't even know where he was supposed to be, but he was just around it, not even knowing he was just there. And
I like that.
I love guys like that. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little excited because I just love dudes like that, yo.
Yo, chill. When Penn sent through the clip to the super chat, and I watched that like 10 times. I was actually I was about to pull off. I had to stay parked because I had to keep watching. Like, it was exciting because even when he got beat, I always like the fact when you can run back and beat him to the spot, try to turn him again, or when he got beat and he would recover and get those blocks. I was digging what I seen from him. What y'all thought?
He's crazy,
great athlete too.
It's
just great.
Biggest crowd. Yeah, it's just another get for the Spurs.
Swiper was so funny in this entire clip because he basically shook his head close to 40 times during that clip. I think I counted. It was like 35 to 40 times. And he was just like, and I feel like that's all Western Conference teams right now, imagining a future where you have to try to score on Wemby and Carter Bryant and Jeremy Sohan, right? And Steph Castle. Like, this is so unfair. It's really, really not fair, right? Boomstick saying, not really. CMB was a great pick. Masai picked him. Masai picked Siakam 43rd. Yep, that was almost 10 years ago. Masai also picked Malachi Flynn. I will root very much for Collin Murray-Boyles. I think Collin Murray-Boyles is going to be a really good player. I've watched a lot of Collin Murray-Boyles. I'm assuming a little bit more than you over the last couple of years. I'm going to tell you, if he can't shoot, he's not going to be a star. And I'm not sure if Carter is going to be a star either. But what I do know is that the Spurs got a very, very good player who can shoot and who is every bit as good defensively as any player in this draft. Like, I know Our guy John D from the panel, you've seen him on the show. We've debated endlessly. He's called "Come on, Malawatch" generational defensively. Well, I certainly hope not for the Raptors fans' sake, but I don't think Kaman is generational defensively. I think Carter could be absolutely generational defensively. So, yeah. I mean, weren't you the same idiot 2 hours ago or an hour ago who was telling me Carter Bryant is terrible? Like, we know where you stand on this, but keep standing on that. Keep standing on that in 3-4 years. What I'm saying is the shit that I've seen already from Carter is like exactly who I thought he was. And I hope the Collin Murray-Boyles does very similar stuff. Like, I think, in terms of game 2, the Raptors play game 2 on Sunday. So what am I expecting from Collin? I'm expecting him to be more of a focal point of the offense. And that would be good, right? That would be good. That because the Raptors didn't really have a focal point of the offense or a guy who can consistently get their own buckets. They did a lot, right, in terms of movement and all that stuff. But just having one guy who can sort of stabilize the offense a little bit, you can kick it to him and he can create for others. I would like to see him experiment with that. I would like to see him, take some open shots, right? That would be great. I think his defensive motor and intensity is going to be always there. That is a staple. Collin Murray-Boyles has been like that last 3 years that I've seen him play. Like, he has always been a great defender. He has great hands, super, super, super good base. He's not someone that you're going to move around. He's incredibly alert team defender. He doesn't have quite the twitchiness or the burst or the aerial flexibility of a Carter Bryant, but he has a lot more in his game in terms of creation off the dribble. So it's a really like, which of these two flavors of cola do you like? It's a very similar thing, and they both have gaps, right? With Carter, it's the creation off the dribble, it's some of the playmaking, but I think Carter's made some incredible plays, honestly. I think some of his passes have shown incredible vision. Maybe the accuracy is not always on, but I see the blueprint of a very good connective passer in him. So, yeah, we'll see. Tamarick Luckett said, Alijah Martin, my teammate, best player I ever played with in high school. Dude was a monster sophomore. We played at North Pike together. Well, shout outs to you. I'm noticing a lot of family members, teammates, cousins, brothers, etc., of the players that the Raptors drafted following PENSARE Basketball, which is actually very, very cool. That's great, man. I don't think people realize, like, there's a video of Chucky Hepburn. I don't know if y'all have seen it. Definitely go look it up. It's on YouTube, where Chucky Hepburn's entire draft party is captured. And you don't realize what a big deal Chucky Hepburn is because you don't watch Chucky Hepburn. But I'm saying, like, you look at his city showing up for him. It's the same thing with Fred VanVleet. Like, when someone in your life is that level of D1 player that they could actually go to the pros, when someone who is like a cousin of yours or even a second cousin of yours, like, it's a big deal, bro. I want you to imagine that your nephew right now is just got drafted by the Chicago Bulls, 56th overall. Like, you would be telling everybody, bro. It's such a huge thing. It's such a huge thing. And that's your nephew. Maybe not even a nephew you liked, right? So it's always amazing to me, when you get to talk to people, you get to talk to people's brothers, mothers, sisters, fathers, whatever, coaches, just how many people have had to pour sacrifices into these players. And the Summer League is a huge deal because it's the first real taste of professional basketball for guys like Chucky Hepburn, Alijah Martin, and on Sunday it'll be Collin Murray-Boyles. It is a big deal. And, it doesn't matter very much. Makes, misses, wins, losses, they don't matter. But it's a huge, like, tone definer, right? You want to let people know, like, this is who I am, right? Cooper said this was the worst game that he ever played. I think 5 for 21. He's like, it was the worst game I ever played. Well, yeah, it's also the first time you've ever played against 25-year-old, 28-year-old men in a professional setting, right? So there's an adjustment curve that's going to happen for 18, 19-year-olds. But the Raptors didn't draft a lot of 18 or 19-year-olds. They drafted 20-year-old Collin Murray-Boyles. They drafted 23-year-olds. And last year, even, they drafted a couple of, if you look at the Jurassic 5, 3 of them were over 23. So, you should be further along. And yeah, like, do I see a star in Jonathan Mobile? I apologize to JMO because I left him out of the earlier question. Somebody asked, I think one of the callers asked, who is the young player with the most upside? and I kind of left J-Mo out of that. My bad. I wasn't thinking. I think Jonathan Mobley probably 5th in that list, and that's a great problem to have. You know, if his and again, like you look at guys like Jonathan Mobley, you look at guys like Alex Caruso, you look at a guy like Lou Dort, even a guy like Dylan Brooks. When I think about it, like thinking about young Dylan Brooks, like did anyone really think he was going to be a starter at the NBA level? It really does matter to me, like how high can you dial up this defensive intensity and how effective can you get at it? Because every team can use a guy who can defend. Every team could use a Tony Allen. Every team could use a guy like that. So, I think the Raptors are doing a great job. I think this draft, as much as I did not agree with the picks, I think I see the vision completely. And even last year, I think there were a couple picks where I was just like, I don't know about that. And yeah, you totally see the vision. Like these are all dogs. These are all guys who, want to get it out of the mud, all hard workers. And they're all guys who are super unselfish and they're all rooting for each other. So that's going to be great. I can't wait to watch Sunday. Like, I think that's going to be really great to see Collin Murray-Boyles debut. I think it's going to be awesome. JB said Cooper played against U.S. Olympians last summer in practices. First of all, I said professional setting. That's not a professional setting. That's an amateur setting. Well, I don't say amateur setting. It's a practice setting, number one. It's not a professional setting. He wasn't being paid. So that's important. I guess you can consider amateur collegiate basketball professional now, but they're still considered amateurs in my book. He was going up in practice, but I don't think those guys were necessarily like, it's not a game. You know what I mean? Like you're not playing disorganized basketball. So Vegan Grass said it's possible CMB's been injured since pre-draft workouts. I don't know why you would say that or where you're getting that from. I don't think that I don't think that's the case. I think at some point over the last 2 months we would have heard about it. But if that's the case, then they've kept it pretty hush-hush. Alan C. saying, we talking about practice? Practice? Absolutely talking about practice. Okay, Johnny A. Summer League. With a super chat. I appreciate that. Are you seeing a replacement for Masai announced before season begins? Any predictions? Do we elevate Bobby? That does seem like the right thing to do, right? Like elevating Bobby Webster does seem like the right thing to do in this situation. He's been here for a while. He's exactly the same age today as Masai was when he took over the job. He's probably got the best resume and is probably the most qualified person that you can really afford. And when I say you can afford, I don't mean to be facetious. Obviously, Rodgers can afford anybody because they're a very, very big company. But I think they're looking at this from a cost-cutting perspective. And I think it's also a little bit weird, right, from a Bobby Webster perspective. Like you have a new guy come in, roster is already quote-unquote set. Your job is already set. You've been here for 13 years. Who are you willing to work under? Unless you're hiring Pat Riley or bringing Masai Ujiri back, I don't think there's a lot of presidents that are available here that Bobby Webster's like, yeah, that's a guy I'm willing to work under for the next 4 or 5 years. So at that point, you now risk potentially, at least. Sorry, am I a little bit blurry here? I always think I'm blurry because my camera looks blurry to me, but then somehow it's not blurry when I look back on it. My bad. So yeah, I don't know if he'd be willing to work under somebody else. Like I don't know if he's willing to work under someone new or someone who's maybe never won a championship, someone he doesn't know. I don't know. But certainly the lazy thing to do would be Bobby Webster just goes up a position, Dan Tolzman goes up a position, you roll the dice, and then if it doesn't work with these guys, you fire them in a year and a half, right? That's probably the right thing to do as well. And that's probably the thing they're going to do. So that would be my prediction. I don't necessarily see some new bench boss coming in. But, it's fair to say if somebody great becomes available, it can't hurt to ask. Right? But if you compare the basketball resume, at least as an executive, Bobby Webster versus Grant Hill or Allen Houston, Bobby Webster should be the president in that situation, right? LLX said Bobby is only extended until the end of the 2026 season. I think it's 2026, 2027, if I'm not mistaken. But if it's not, then yeah, sure, he's got one more year because we're in 2025 right now. He's not on a 1-year deal. He is extended till the end of the 2026-2027 season, so that's 2 years. Now, obviously, if the shit goes and hits the fan, Brandon Ingram is hurt all year. Scotty Barnes regresses, trades backfire, draft picks don't work out. Collin Murray-Boyles looks like a bust. Yeah, trust me, heads will roll next summer, and they'll eat the final year of that contract. Will and Alex said it could be related injury for CMB from pre-draft. Okay, well, I don't listen to Will and Alex, so I wouldn't know. But that's cool if that is. And do you think we can have a finals run next season? Good question. Next season, probably not. But I listened to Jakob Pertl talk about it. And he said, today he was, I think it was with Sportsnet, and he said, yeah, we're not going to go out and win 50, 60 games right away. Or I think he said, we're not going to win 60 plus games right away. But over the next couple of years, couple means 2, and he's Austrian, so he's literal. It would be nice to, I believe, I don't want to misquote Yak, so you probably just go listen to the clip yourself. But he alluded to the idea of, wanting to chase championships. Right. Tony is saying CMB injured by carrying the entire South Carolina team to 12 wins. Yes. And he was the best thing about that team. Look, man, it's such a weird thing with CMB because, again, as a believer of the analytics, the Raptors have drafted 3 of the best basketball players in collegiate basketball this year. Not drafted Chucky Hepburn. Like Alijah Martin, Chucky Hepburn, and Collin Murray-Boyles impacted winning so phenomenally for their teams. Like, they're all 9+ box plus minus guys. Their on-off splits are insane. They're very NBA ready in terms of their physicality and stuff. They're all two-way players, and typically it is those two-way players who impact the defensive end so much that tend to have such high impact metrics. So yeah, and I mean, I think it matters so much for CMB that his team was just so bad when he was off the court. Like his team was awful. But I promise you, his overall value is not just being buoyed by, his team was awful with him on the bench. Like, no, it's a part of the equation. His team was awful with him on the bench. They couldn't do anything. Scotty Snatch the Soul said, do you like what you saw from Reno and Deron Holmes? So Deron Holmes still freaks me out a little bit. His movement pattern pre-draft was a little bit clunky. I wasn't low on him, but I wasn't as high on him as other people saw, right? I have an issue when an athlete has a sort of clunky gait because I think it's a recipe for injuries. So I was a little bit surprised he tore his Achilles, but I wasn't surprised that he got hurt. Now, watching him again, once again, I don't like the way he runs. So, yeah, it's something about movement patterns in athletes. Like, I need you to be balanced when you're moving. I'm almost looking at athletes like a little spreadsheet, of load, right? Because, again, like, basketball is the hardest sport. In my opinion, basketball is the hardest sport to play in the world. Like, you can argue that all day. You can argue MMA. You can argue, American football. You can argue whatever the fuck you want. You can argue against a wall. I'm telling you, it's basketball. Basketball is really hard on the body, and it really matters in terms of, like, look at the number of possessions. Like, I think Kevin Durant's talked about this. Tetrahedron said golf definitely as well. I completely forgot about golf. My bad. But yes, definitely basketball is so difficult on your joints. Like, you're running up and down. It's like all the planes of movement are engaged. There's no real stoppages. You're constantly changing ends, you're changing directions, angles, etc. So at this point, if you are imbalanced or if you have a hitch in how you walk or you have a gait issue, you will break down. It's not a matter of if, but when. So, yeah. Pool, I also forgot about Pool. So, yeah, Nolan Bambury said, Pen, obviously I'm a Raptors fan, but any update on when we get the first video for the Spurs-based channel? Good question. I would like to launch that Spurs channel at some point towards the conclusion of Summer League, in between Summer League and the start of preseason. So somewhere I'm aiming probably end of July, early August. Let some subscribers build up there. Yeah. And I think it's a good thing because I've obviously developed quite, I talk to so many people about basketball every single day. It's actually insane. I was just thinking about the impact, like just considering the last week, right? Like you got this channel, you got Playback, you got X, you got Instagram, you got Player's Choice, you got the panel. Like you add in the Spurs channel and you really are talking like 10, 15, 20,000 people every single week. More actually, because every panel episode gets like 20,000 views. So you might be talking like 60, 70,000 people a week. That is not impact that should be taken for granted. That really isn't, because this is long form content. The panel is 3 hours. Some of these lives are 2 hours, 1.5 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. These are long form. This is long form content, So yeah, I'm very, very blessed that I'll be able to leverage some of the existing audience at Pensare Basketball, as well as the existing audience potentially on the panel, and sort of just give myself that first little lift on 1,000 subscribers for the Spurs, so I can get the ball rolling on monetization. But I'm looking forward to it, man. I have a sincere, as I'll conclude this live on a little note, that I've heard a very frequent criticism that you only feel this way about Scotty Barnes because he's a Raptor, right? And I always hate that. I hate it because you're really, there's so many times when on the panel I'll say something negative about a player who was a Raptor, and they're like, "Oh, he just hates him because he's an ex-Raptor." But then I'll say something really positive about an ex-Raptor, and they'll say he only loves him because he's an ex-Raptor. People are just like dying to character assassinate you, right? They're dying to like show how you're inconsistent or biased or your view isn't valid. So when people say that, "Oh, well, you only really Scotty's only your favorite player because he plays in Toronto," absolutely not. Scotty Barnes would be my favorite player if he played for Boston, if he played for New York, if he played for Miami, if he played for literally any team. He would be my favorite player in the league. Is because he embodies everything that I look for in a basketball player. And it was funny because somebody said to me like, "Oh man, if the Raptors hadn't drafted Scotty, you would have forgotten all about it." Fuck no, I wouldn't have. And I think the Carter Bryant stuff is proving that, right? Because that's the thing. Like I was very high on Carter pre-draft, very high on Wemby, very high on Steph Castle. And those are the players that I'm continuing to support now through the second channel. And it's not just, oh, well, really high on Carter, watched them for, 5 months and really studied his tape and really got, familiar with him, got to talk to his dad, all that stuff. And yeah, now it's just, oh, well, he didn't play for Toronto, so fuck him. That's definitely not the way I roll, right? So I agree with you. Mamu is going to be a fan favorite. Scotty Snatcher Soul says you talk good about Kyle Lowry a lot. I also talk good about Vince Carter. I also talk good about Doug Christie. I talk good about a lot of ex-Raptors, a ton of ex-Raptors, a phenomenal number of ex-Raptors. The real question is, Penn, are you higher on Carter or Scotty? Scotty, of course. No, I think Carter is like Dyson Daniels, in that sense. Like I was really big on Dyson Daniels, but I think Carter's very similar to that player. Spurs could be scary. I agree with you. The Spurs could be absolutely insane. And they also, like the Raptors, which is really interesting because these are two teams that I'll be covering this year, they also had all of their guys, in the summer league supporting. Wemby was there, Harrison Barnes was there, Jeremy Sohan was there. Like everybody showed up to support the team. De'Aaron Fox was there. And then boom, the Raptors do the same thing. So it's like, dude, like you have two rosters full of players that I absolutely adore. I don't dislike anybody on the Raptors right now. There's not one player on this team where I'm like, can't stand that dude. Maybe Colin Castleton. I'm just kidding. But seriously, like in all seriousness, there's not a single player on this team that I feel that like, oh well, shit, he's not my style of basketball player. No, they're all my style of basketball players. I just think you have too much of the same thing, and at some point you're going to need some balance. So be curious to see how that works out. I feel the same way about the Spurs. There's literally nobody on that team from top to bottom that I'm like, that's a player that I don't like, right? Do you think there's any chance that the Spurs are the best team in Texas this year? I mean, there's a chance. Sure, there's a chance. I think the more likely outcome is they're the worst team in Texas because they're so young, right? Dylan Harper is so young, right? Like Steph Castle is super young. So Wemby is the best player in Texas, in my opinion. Humbly, he's the best player. De'Aaron Fox is probably the 7th best player. So that's really the gap. If Kyrie is healthy, if Cooper is ahead of schedule, Dallas is going to be really good, right? They're going to be really good. Yeah. Scotty loves Castleton. So should we. Well, I'm not brain dead, so I don't love players because Scotty likes players. Mamu wore a Toronto Tempo shirt. Also can't wait to cover the Toronto Tempo next year. That's going to be dope. I also love Tamani Kamara as well. I wish I'd paid more attention to him in the pre-draft process. He was not a player who was super high on my radar because just hadn't watched a lot of him. This year was very different for me in the draft and evaluation space because I really did do my best to watch every single player. Now, how many Chucky Hepburn games did I get to watch? 2. So I had to go back and watch them after. But yeah, like I didn't have solid opinions. And that to me is sort of like another glaring hole for next year. It's like, okay, if you want to do this legit, then you got to go even deeper than you went this year. And it's just like, my God, man, this year was so exhausting. There's so much time devoted to the film study this year. I got to go even deeper than that. I got to go and start scouting fucking the Chucky Hepburns of the world just in case my team might sign him as a 2-way. So that's the nutty part, right? There's so many programs across. And I think the way that I would view it is there's a lot of players that will be in next year's draft class that already got started on this year. So that's probably a good thing. Yeah. Jacoby is that guy though. Yeah. I'm looking forward to some good performance from Jacoby. I think his handle needs to get a lot better. I think his passing needs to get a lot better because he's not a sniper shooter. You know what I mean? Like he's a good shooter. I think 38% would be a solid outcome for him. But if he doesn't want to get lost in that Gary Trent mold, he's going to have to become lockdown defensively. And he's not. He's not a lockdown defender defensively. He's not like, you don't want to be a generalist is what I'm saying. Like in the NBA, you don't want to be a generalist. You got to be a specialist, and you got to be a specialist like 2 things. If you really want to be if you want to be in the NBA, you got to be really, really good at 2 things, and you got to be super consistent at it. So if you're a shooter who occasionally has a month where you shoot 20%, you're out of the league. You cannot be that player, right? Like you got to be relatively consistent. Your effort has to be super consistent, and you have to be in the 90th percentile at something. I got to get something for putting you on the court. You just can't be a generalist. And I think that a lot of teams draft players who are just good enough at a lot of things, but they're not great at anything. And I think that's where you get in trouble, right? My opinion of Castleton is if the Raptors can manage to get a 2nd round pick for him or just straight up waive him for free, a roster spot, I'd be patting myself on the back. Well, he doesn't have a guaranteed roster spot. Castleton does not have a guaranteed roster spot, neither does AJ Lawson. If I'm not mistaken, they have guarantee dates on their deals that make them waivable, highly waivable. The Raptors technically are operating with a open roster spot. Now, how will they fill that roster spot? I do not know. But I'll give you a parting note, which will hopefully bring you some peace. Y'all remember in 2022, we traded a 1st round pick for Thaddeus Young. Y'all remember that? Now we got Christian Koloko, right? And a lot of people were very, very upset by that. I wasn't super upset at the time, but I got more upset later on when I thought about it. And here's the interesting thing. So I happened to know at the time a friend of mine was very convinced, based on some stuff that he'd heard, that the Raptors really liked David Roddy. And Roddy ended up going to the Memphis Grizzlies. So that checked out, right? The Raptors draft well, the Grizzlies draft well, but Roddy just didn't work out for whatever reason. I don't think Roddy panned out the way that he was supposed to. And he's kind of bounced around the league a little bit. Last year, he was with the Rio Grande Vipers. Previous year, I think he was with the Phoenix Suns. So he's almost journeyman, and he is pretty much at a pit stop. Like, he's probably on his last stop right now, right? So at this point, what's interesting to note is the player you probably would have taken had you kept that pick is probably David Roddy. I'm telling you, like, I had some really solid intel. The Raptors were super high on him. They worked him out. They loved him. And they were kind of hoping that he might be there later. They thought this is our deep range target, whatever. And then he went. So they ended up taking Christian Koloko later in the draft. But all this talk about Walker Kessler and, Christian Brown, and look at all, Nikola Jovic. Dude, we just saw this with Maxime Renault. Like, this team just has its own way of drafting, and clearly they like this archetype. They like this physical, stout defender and smart playmaker type. So, the good news is you have him on an Exhibit 10 deal now. You didn't have to pay him a first-round salary, didn't have to waive him, didn't have to attach picks to get off the salary. And now, if you really do like him, if you still believe in him, because obviously Bobby Webster and Dan Tolzman were the ones who did like him, well, now you have a chance to actually bring him in. Get him with your crew. He was sitting next to Scotty Barnes today. He was sitting next to between Scotty and Ochai yesterday, today in the summer league. And if you like him, I certainly have some positive ideas about how he could potentially unlock himself in the NBA. So yeah, I'm gonna check out some David Roddy film. But David Roddy is I thought he was gonna be an NBA player for sure. I was high on him coming into the draft. So I'm excited that he's gonna be competing for a camp spot. And damn, the competition is going to be fierce, right? Chucky, Hepburn, two-way contract. Do you know how waivable two-way contracts are? Do you realize how waivable a two-way contract is? Do you know how quickly they will waive his ass if somebody else emerges like a Jameson Battle did last year? It's the same thing with Alijah Martin, right? That's a second-round pick. We did not get that guaranteed money that Jamal Shed and Jonathan Mobo got last year. That's very interesting because he's actually a higher pick than Jamal Shed was last year. They gave Jamal Shed the guaranteed money, the $2 million, 3-year, whatever deal. But hey, Alijah Martin ends up signing a two-way. That's very interesting. So to me, this is it's tough, man. Like, you think they wouldn't? You think they won't waive them? You think they won't because you're like, you just put a 39th overall pick. Well, remind me, when did David Johnson ever play for the Raptors? 47th pick for the Raptors in 2021. When did he ever actually get a contract with the Raptors? He never got one. So that's the thing. Like, sometimes these guys just don't make it through camp. Like, that's just a sad part, right? If they watch Alijah Martin and he does not guard his ass off and he does not come a long way as a jump shooter, right? Like, it's going to be tough. So you don't get that guaranteed deal. A lot of people are saying that maybe Maxime Renault didn't want to come to Toronto at 39, partially because they weren't willing to give him the guaranteed deal. Well, if that is the case, well, okay, cool. I get it. DeAndre Daniels was a bust. Yep. And he never played a minute for the Raptors. And he was the 35th overall pick that year. Again, never played a minute. Just didn't make it through Summer League. This Summer League thing is and again, the two-way thing is interesting because if you clear up your cap sheet, if you end up trading Ochai or RJ or Quickly or whoever the fuck you're going to trade, you're not trading Jakob, you're not trading Scotty, you're not trading BI. So I don't know who you're going to trade to make up that difference, or if you're just going to commit to being a tax team. But if you do manage to duck under the tax, now maybe if you clear up a roster spot in the process, like let's just say you trade RJ Ochai 2 for 1, well, now maybe you can take Chucky Hepburn or Alijah Martin and convert them to a standard contract or overage. Honestly, I like our two-way guys. Our two-way guys are like some of the best two-way guys in the league. I like our two-way guys. Alijah Martin plus Ulrich Chomsky are your two-way guys. Like, yo, successful roster rebuild. I love this. Yeah, I'm rooting for this team. So, anyways, thank you all for joining us. 1 hour and 49 minutes. Raptors basketball is back. Shout outs to the 600 plus, 700 plus people at one point who were in here. That's dope. When I looked at the YouTube thing and it said 98 people waiting. I was like, oh damn, like we're lit today. That's awesome. So yeah, I'll have y'all covered all summer league, and can't wait for the season, man. Can't wait for preseason. Can't wait for camp. And can't wait to shut these people up. I think they put the over under on the Raptors this year at 34.5. We do not believe in sports gambling here. We do not. But that is criminally insane. That is insane. That is so fucking disrespectful. And lately, I've been hearing a lot more people say, yeah, I could see them making the playoffs. I could see them making the playoffs. The broadcast crew was saying, I could see them making the playoffs. Zach Lowe was like, yeah, maybe they're a playoff team. I think people are going to realize very, very quickly that this team is nowhere close to as bad as they were last year. That a lot of, think about it. Like, I don't know if you want to think about it this way directly and how good you think Collin Murray-Boyles is, but imagine this. You adding Sandro, Collin Murray-Boyles, and Brandon Ingram to a team that won 30 wins. Should you not get 40 just by virtue of that alone? How bad do you think Brandon Ingram is? And then you add like a healthy RJ and a healthy Scotty, and you add all that stuff and you take the tanking out of it and you make everybody older. Like, you add the worst thing East. Like, yeah, like you could very easily sell yourself on like, oh, we're gonna be a 45 win team. And at that point, if you play hard and you get some injury luck, I don't know, maybe. All right, I'll talk to y'all later. Have a great night. Please hit like on your way out. Appreciate you. And thank you again to Christian Burton and Johnny A again for the super chats. Appreciate y'all. Take care.